Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, how are you? I think all of you are well in grace of Almighty Allah. I am also fine. I am Mohammad Hiron Chaudhary, Associate Professor and Head of the Department, Statistics Department, Eden Mohila College, Dhaka. Welcome to all of you on behalf of Eden College online class. Our today's class is third year honors course statH 305 Operation Research, topic linear programming problem. At first I shall define some definitions. What is slack variable? Slack variable. When a linear programming problem, when in a linear programming problem the constraint is of less or equal type, then we add a non-negative variable left hand side of this equation. This non-negative variable is called slack variable. In linear programming problem, when the constraints are less than or equal to type, then we add non-negative variables left hand side of this constraint. This non-negative variable is called slack variable. To change the inequality constraints, of a general LPP of less or equal type to equality constraint, equality constraints, the non-negative variables which are added to the left hand side of the inequality constraint are called slack variables. For example, if we consider the constraint of is consider the constraint is less or equal to type. If we reduce it equation form, then we add some non-negative variables to the left hand side of this equation. These variables is called slack variables. That is, if we add yi equal to bi, yi is greater or 0, then this variables is called slack variables. Surplus variable. Surplus variable, same as previous definition, only difference is that this constraint was less or equal type, and here the constraints are greater or equal type. If the constraints are greater or equal type, then we reduce into equation form after adding some variables to the right hand, after deduce some variables to the left hand side of the equation. This equation is called surplus variable. When in LPP, when the constraints are greater or equal type, then we reduce it into equation type by subtracting variables to the left hand side of this equation. These equations are called, these variables are called surplus variable. Just previous definition, only difference is that we subtract some non-negative variables and the constraints are greater or equal type. If we consider our constraints are aij xj greater or bi, I equal to 1 to n. If we subtract some variable from left hand side, that is xj minus yi equal to bi, yi greater or 0, then these variables are called surplus variable. That is, in slack variable we add some variables and the equations are greater or less or equal type, but in surplus variable the constraints are greater or equal type and we subtract, in slack variable we add some non-negative variables to the left hand side of this constraint, but in surplus variable we subtract some variables left hand side of this constraint. Next, canonical form, standard form of LPP. Standard form of LPP. Any LPP is of the form max or min z equal to subject to vector of into a root vi into vector of 0. This form is called standard form of LPP. Any LPP is of the form, that is, if the non-negative, if the constraints are equal type in LPP, if the constraints are equal type, then this form is called standard form. This problem also may be written as this form is called standard form of LPP. Characteristics. Characteristics of canonical, standard form. Characteristics of standard form. Number 1, the objective function is to be maximization or minimization. The objective function is to be maximization or minimization. All the constraints are expressed in the form of equations except the non-negative restrictions. Expect the non-negative restrictions. Number 3, the right hand side of constraints equation is non-negative. The right hand side of is constraint equation is non-negative. Number 4, all the decision variables are non-negative. Number 4, all the decision variables are non-negative. Next, canonical form. Canonical form. The general LPP can be written in the following form is called canonical form. Which can be represented as max z into cj fj subject to and this form is called canonical form, or it may be minimize subject to. This form is called canonical form. Characteristics of canonical form. Characteristics of canonical form. All the decision variables are non-negative. When the objective function is minimization type, when the objective function is maximization type, then the constraints are less or equal type. Number 3, when the objective function is maximization type, then the constraints are less or equal type. Number 3, when the objective function is minimization type, then the constraints are greater or equal type. Now I shall give an example of standard form. Reduce the following LPP to standard form. Reduce the following LPP to standard form. Max z equal to 3x1 2x2 2x3. Sub z2 minus 2x1 plus 4x2 3x1 plus 2x2 2x2 plus x3 5 minus 2x1 plus 3x3 Reduce the following LPP to standard form. We know in standard form the constraints are equal type. Now we can see that this constraint is inequality type, less than equal to type. This equation is greater than equal to type. This constraint is less or equal type. We also know that when the constraint is less or equal to type, then we add statH variables to reduce it equation type. When the equations are greater or equal to type, then we subtract surplus variable to reduce it equation type. Now adding statH variable s1 to the first constraint. Since it is less or equal type, let's subtract surplus variable s2 to the second constraint and adding slack variable S3 to the third constraints, we get max z equal to 3x1 3x2 4 plus 0x1 0x2 0x3 subject to minus 2x1 4x2 plus 0x3 plus s1 plus equal to 40 minus 2x1 3x1 plus 2x2 plus x3 plus 0x1 minus s2 plus s3 equal to 5 minus 2x1 plus 0x2 plus 3x3 0x1 0x2 plus s3 equal and x1 all the variables are non-negative s3 s1 s2 s3 0. This form is called standard form. It is when the constraints are less or equal to type or greater or equal to type, then we adding slack variable or surplus variable to reduce it equation type. This form is called standard form. So viewers, no more today. See you another day, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.